The sterile corridor of the Meridian station hummed with the constant thrum of life support systems. Chris checked his datapad for the third time, squinting at the cramped text displaying his temporary quarters assignment. Deck 7, Section C, Room 714. Simple enough, except the station's layout had been modified 3 times since the last digital update, and half the directional holograms flickered with corrupted data. He'd been traveling for 6 months from Earth, part of the newest wave of human engineers recruited to maintain the sprawling network of relay stations that kept interstellar commerce flowing. Meridian Station orbited a neutron star in the Kepler 442 system, its gravitational anomalies making it an ideal hub for quantum-entangled communication arrays. The work was grueling, the pay was excellent, and the isolation was absolute. Chris found Deck 7 easily enough, but Section C proved elusive. The corridors twisted in non-Euclidean angles, a side effect of the station's modular construction around the neutron star's warped spacetime. He followed what he thought was the correct path, his mag boots clicking against the deck plating with each step. Room 714. The door slid open with a pneumatic hiss. The room was dimmer than he expected, lit by bioluminescent panels that cast everything in shades of deep blue and violet. But it was the figure standing by the viewport that made Chris freeze mid-step. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with skin that seemed to shimmer between pearl and opalescent silver. Her form was humanoid but distinctly other, elongated limbs that moved with an unsettling grace, fingers that tapered to points, and eyes that were entirely black, like polished obsidian reflecting the void beyond the station. She wore a form-fitting environmental suit that seemed to be more organic than manufactured, its surface rippling with faint patterns of light. An alien, a Velari, if Chris remembered his xenobiology briefings correctly. She turned to face him, and for a long moment neither spoke. Her head tilted in what might have been curiosity, her features unreadable yet undeniably beautiful in their strangeness. I'm sorry, Chris stammered, his hand instinctively reaching for the door control. Wrong room, the directory must be. Stay, she said, her voice resonating with harmonics that human vocal cords couldn't produce. It wasn't a command, but it wasn't quite a request either. You are cold. Chris blinked. He was cold. The station's environmental controls kept quarters at a baseline comfortable for most oxygen-breathing species, but the journey through the corridors had left him chilled. His standard-issue jumpsuit was designed for function, not warmth. The thermal regulation in this section is suboptimal, Salina continued, gesturing to a seat near a heating element embedded in the wall. I have been monitoring the systems. The neutron star's radiation fluctuations interfere with the station's power distribution network every 4.7 hours. The next cycle will occur in. She paused, her eyes seeming to glaze over as if accessing internal calculations. 17 minutes. Chris found himself stepping inside rather than leaving. The door hissed shut behind him. You're an engineer, he asked, moving cautiously toward the offered seat. Astrophysicist, Salina corrected. She moved to a workstation cluttered with holographic displays showing complex equations and 3-dimensional models of spacetime curvature. I study gravitational lensing effects near neutron stars. The data collected here is unique. Nowhere else in charted space can we observe such clean relativistic phenomena. Chris sat down, warmth immediately seeping through his jumpsuit. He studied her more carefully now. The Velari were known throughout human space as one of the most intellectually advanced species in the coalition, their understanding of quantum mechanics and gravitational physics centuries ahead of humanity's. They were also notoriously solitary, preferring to work alone rather than in the mixed species teams that populated most stations. I'm Chris, he offered. Engineer Corps just arrived. I'm supposed to be working on the quantum comm arrays. Salina, she replied, not turning from her work. You are the 17th human to arrive this cycle. Your species has a remarkable capacity for adaptation to hostile environments. Thanks, I think. It was an observation, not a judgment. She manipulated one of the holographic displays, and a three-dimensional representation of Meridian Station materialized between them. Your quarters are not in this section. You are 3 decks above your intended destination. The station's navigation system has a 23% error rate in this sector due to temporal distortion fields. Temporal distortion. Salina's fingers danced through the hologram, highlighting specific areas of the station. The neutron star's rotation creates frame-dragging effects. Time moves at different rates depending on your position relative to the star. In some sections, the difference is negligible. In others, she indicated a glowing red zone. Time moves 0.003% slower than baseline. The station's computer systems have not been fully calibrated to account for these variations. It creates navigational anomalies. Chris leaned forward, fascinated despite his initial discomfort. That's incredible and dangerous. Both, Salina agreed. She finally turned to face him fully, her obsidian eyes seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. You do not fear me. It wasn't a question, but Chris answered anyway. Should I? Many of your kind do. The Velari are perceived as cold, emotionless. We process information differently than humans. What you call intuition, we experience as probability cascades. What you call emotion, we experience as chemical imperatives optimized through evolution. But you still experience them. For the first time, something that might have been a smile or its alien equivalent crossed Salina's features. We do. We simply understand their mechanisms. That does not diminish their reality. The heating element cycled down as the power fluctuation Salina had predicted occurred. The lights dimmed momentarily, and through the viewport, the neutron star pulsed with intensified radiation, its accretion disk blazing like a celestial inferno. Beautiful, Chris whispered. Yes, Salina said, standing beside him at the viewport. When I first arrived, I spent 3 days here simply observing. In Velari culture, we have a concept, Shalith. It means the profound recognition of one's insignificance in the face of cosmic magnificence. It is not despair. It is liberation. Chris understood, watching the swirling plasma dance around the star's poles. We have something similar. We call it the overview effect. Astronauts who see Earth from space often describe a cognitive shift, a realization of unity, fragility, interconnection. Perhaps our species are not so different. They stood in silence, watching the universe perform its ancient dance. The awkwardness of Chris's initial intrusion had evaporated, replaced by something unexpected, companionship. Why didn't you ask me to leave? Chris finally asked. Salina turned her gaze from the stars to him. Loneliness is a constant here. The station's crew rotates, but meaningful connections are rare. We are all isolated by specialization, by species, by the vast distances that separate us from home. She paused. When you entered, I calculated the probability that you would be someone worth knowing. The variables were favorable. You calculated friendship. I calculated potential, Salina corrected. The outcome is still uncertain, but I have learned that the most significant discoveries often result from unexpected variables entering the equation. Chris smiled. I'm an unexpected variable. The best kind. The heating element cycled back on. Outside, the neutron star continued its eternal spin, warping space and time around it, indifferent to the 2 beings who had found each other in its shadow. I should probably find my actual quarters, Chris said, though he made no move to leave. You should, Salina agreed. But the next power fluctuation will occur in 4.7 hours. The navigation systems will be unreliable again. Statistically, you have a 67% chance of becoming lost in Deck 4's temporal distortion zone. That sounds dangerous. It is. Salina returned to her workstation, pulling up additional data streams. You could remain here until the cycle stabilizes. I have spare rations compatible with human metabolism. And, she gestured to a section of her research, I could use a second perspective on these quantum entanglement patterns. Human intuition might offer insights my probabilistic analysis misses. Chris settled back into his seat, his smile widening. Well, if it's for science. Precisely, Salina said, and if he didn't know better, Chris would have sworn he heard amusement in her harmonic voice. For science. As the station hummed around them, and the neutron star painted the cosmos in impossible colors, two beings from different worlds began the tentative process of translation, not just of language or science, but of the universal experience of seeking connection in the infinite dark. That night, the wrong room became exactly the right place to be.